Great pleasure.
It is a great pleasure to be here to see such an extraordinary event. I think that when you enter here into the South Summit, it happened to me something that I also realized in Bogota, which is how vibrant is the community of entrepreneurs from all around the world. And I think that if we can continue working together, entrepreneurs, private sector, public sector, together for the future of entrepreneurship, I think we can transform this world.
I agree with you absolutely. Well, I'm in love with Colombia. I've been in Colombia in the last 3 years, 4 years. I've been quite a few times, and each time I go there, I love it more. But I want, Minister, you to tell me how important is this ecosystem for the Colombian government?
Well, first of all, how important is for me? I think one of my passions, one of the things that I would like to do in the past, in the future, in the present, is to be an entrepreneur. And actually, I remember I won one prize on entrepreneurship, which I didn't realize at the end that I needed to develop that firm. So I am really an admirer of what you have done in your lives. For this government of Colombia, entrepreneurship is one of the key strategies that we have in our national development plan. And I just want to give you one example to prove what I have said. The president of Colombia, the president of Colombia has done many visits all around the world.
Don't
And-
worry, don't worry.
And when you realize the kind of visits that he has done, it's impressive that in those visits that he has done all around the world, he has included Silicon Valley. Just imagine a president of a country going to Silicon Valley. Second, Shenzhen in China. Third, Station F in France. And myself, Yosma in Israel. What we were doing that just to build our national policy on entrepreneurship, to learn from best practices all around the world. And why entrepreneurship? Because it's the only way in which a country can grow. It's a way in which we can build social equity in our countries. Doesn't work. It's also a way in which we can build opportunities for all. It's a way in which we can build social policy for our countries. Entrepreneurship is like the engine of our countries. It's a way in which we can grow as a country. And during the last semester, we have grown in Colombia 3.1%. But we want to grow 5, 6%. The only way to do that is first by promoting private initiative. Secondly, by building new entrepreneurs in our country. I was with President Duque in 500 startups in the United States. And what impressed me is that in that conversation, the person from 500 startups told me that during the last year, from the number of entrepreneurships proposed to 500 startups, 30% of them were coming from entrepreneurs from Colombia. That's a huge amount of entrepreneurship. And I think the reason for that comes from maybe one of the most important assets in Colombia and in Latin America, which is human talent.
Yeah.
When you have human talent, eager to do things, eager to transform, eager to be more creative, to be more innovative, that's the best way in which we can promote this kind of entrepreneurship. And one final word about the entrepreneurs. I think that when a country builds entrepreneurship, it's a way to build magic in the country. In Spanish, magic is magia. And magia is a word that contains maybe some of the things that we can learn from entrepreneurs. First is the M, motivation. Self-motivation and motivation to the others. The A is attitude. That attitude implies that usually entrepreneurs move from ideas to actions too. The G is people. Entrepreneurs work with people, for people, by the people. The I is imagination, creativity. And finally, the final A is amor, love. I think that what you irradiate is a lot of passion, a lot of love, and also courage to do things. So I think that a country must learn from entrepreneurs. That's the other idea that I just wanted to raise.
Minister, you have convinced me. I know for you entrepreneurship is very important and for your government also. But tell me, please, what are you doing? You said you have different things that you are working. How we are going to promote that in Colombia? I've seen the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Colombia is boiling. It's really there are each day, each year I go there, I see more people, I see more entrepreneurs, I see more investment funds and so on. But how are you developing all this? What do you think?
I think that the first thing that you have to know is that public policy is needed on entrepreneurship. But sometimes you see that entrepreneurs go on the elevator while the public policy goes by the stairs. So we have to move faster as the public makers of the policy. What do you have to include in a public policy? What are we including now in a public policy? First of all, how to create a culture of entrepreneurship, a mentality of entrepreneurship. And what we have done is that we have traveled all around the regions of Colombia, building the community of entrepreneurship, building this idea of culture of entrepreneurship by different instruments. One of those is Héroes Fest. The other one is Emprendeton. The other one is Innovatorio. Going to the regions, working with future entrepreneurs and current entrepreneurs to build the ecosystem. Second issue that you have to do when you are building the public policy is how to build this idea of the ecosystem itself. Here we have one of the former presidents of a university in Colombia, which, by the way, is recognized also for entrepreneurship, Universidad de los Andes. What we have built now is a way in which we are making to work together universities, public policy, private sector, NGOs around the idea of entrepreneurship. And when we went to Station F in France with President Duque, we realized that Station F is an example to do that. So we came back from France, and the president told me, we have to implement this model, Station F, in Colombia. And we started to do that. We created what we called C Entrepreneurship, Colombia Entrepreneurship, which is a kind of an incubator in different cities of Colombia. And we are going to end up in 2022 with maybe around 24 different incubators all around Colombia. Incubators in which you combine the entrepreneurs with those who provide financial assistance, those with technical assistance, with the private sector, with the guilds or agremiations, and working together about entrepreneurship. Third, how to develop the financial needs for entrepreneurs. And we're building something which is going to be totally different in Colombia. We call it Fund of Funds. We went to the United States, we worked with SoftBank, and they decided to work together with the Colombian government to build the first fund of funds for entrepreneurs. We're going to start by the end of this year with around $40 million. With such money, we're going to give that money to investment funds or risk funds, and those risk funds, they are going to invest on the entrepreneurs, and they're going to solve 60% of the needs of the entrepreneurs. We are going to raise, by the end of the government, and that's our goal, to raise around $200,000 million, which is going to be an extraordinary amount. That's the only way in which we can answer one of the needs of the entrepreneurs. Those are the main issues that we are working now. Of course, we are working also on mentorship, how to accelerate companies, how to escalate companies, how to develop the culture of entrepreneurship. And also, what we're doing now is how to move from entrepreneurship to innovation, which is maybe the next step that we want to cross.
Minister, you have just started talking about a magic word for us. Because when we talk about entrepreneurs, when we talk about startups, we talk about innovation. But when we talk about transformation, we talk about innovation. That's why, as far as you know, when you talk about the claim of South Summit is innovation is business, is the transformation of society. So you have just entered in that. How are you working on that? How are you working not only in innovation, just the magic and the big word about innovation? I prefer you that we talk about open innovation, that we talk about how our traditional companies, corporates, are transforming to work with the startups and how we can all together make and develop business. What about innovation, Minister?
What you have said is very important. How to promote open innovation in a country. We have just started with the private sector a new space in which we are developing challenges on public policy. So we are, for example, inviting the Minister of Energy and ourselves with Impulsa, which is our national agency for innovation, working together on a challenge. Which was the first challenge? How to develop energy in remote areas of Colombia by entrepreneurship, social innovation. And we are starting to do that. It's a free space. Now we're working with the Minister of Defense in other issues. Now we're working with the Minister of Housing in other issues. That's a way to promote the idea of public innovation. But the other thing that we're working on is how are we going to be able to move the country towards the idea of the fourth industrial revolution? How are we going to move our private sector, our public sector, on issues like blockchain, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, for example? So last year we were with President Duque and Presidente Moreno from IDB, and he said, why don't you create in Colombia a center for the fourth industrial revolution? And we started to work on that with the World Economic Forum. In Davos, in Switzerland, we announced the creation of this center. And finally, in May, we started the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And now it's in Medellin. And what are they doing? First of all, how to develop public policy on, for example, blockchain. How can we use blockchain to work against corruption, to build transparency, for example, in public bids? That's extraordinary, and they are starting to develop the public policy on that issue, and they are learning from the other four centers for the fourth industrial revolution, one in Beijing, the other one in Japan, the other one in India, and the other one in the United States. Now we are also working on artificial intelligence in order to build the public policy. How, for example, local territories of Colombia can contract or develop contracts in order to implement artificial intelligence in those regions. And third, how can we implement Internet of Things as a way to build smart cities? And we are starting with the G20, starting in Medellin. But then we decided, let's go to the Pacific Alliance and show the other countries what we can work together. How can we work together? And they said, we are interested. So we want you to invite, for example, some cities in Mexico, in Ecuador, in Peru, in Chile, to work with Medellin to develop this public policy in the use of blockchain to build transparency. That's another way to build innovation. And the third one, which in my opinion is very important, how to work also on the relevance on education. So what I said is we have to work together, Minister of Education, Minister of Labor, and Minister of Trade, together working on relevance on education. In my opinion, we need to innovate on education and educate on innovation. And means that we have to go back to basics. Which are the best parts of education in our lives? In my opinion, is kindergarten and the PhD.
Yeah.
In both parts, you build your education, your learning process based on curiosity.
Yeah.
How can we build curiosity as a way to promote innovation from the beginning, from the first years of our children? So now, those are the kind of things that we're working on together, Minister of Education, Minister of Labor, Minister of Trade too.
I love what you say, because you are talking about the different issues that really are very important about all of this. We have 4 minutes, and we've been talking about education, and we've been talking about innovation, about the ecosystem, about capital and financing. I would like to put them together. And you have talked about one thing that I think is really very important, how you are working with venture fund, the most important of the world, as is SoftBank, and you are with a fund of funds. How is that going to work? For example, for all the different funds in Colombia, and how is that going, that really, those 40 million that you have talked about, how are they going to multiply, and how is the money going to reach the entrepreneurs?
When we start to think about this model, we said what we have to do is to take advantage of those who know about entrepreneurship. So the idea is not to give the money directly from the public government to entrepreneurs, because actually we as public politicians, we don't know actually to work on entrepreneurship. I think that entrepreneurship is so important that it cannot be relegated to politicians. You have to include the others, the private sector, the entrepreneurs itself. So what we did is just build a fund, and with the fund, give that fund to the real risk capital funds, those who are actually involved in entrepreneurship. And what they have to do, they have to invest on real entrepreneurs. They have to choose the entrepreneurs. So that's a way in which, by an indirect way, we are promoting entrepreneurship on the other side of the road. That's exactly the idea. And what we're doing now is that we are coming, for example, here to Spain. We're going to the United States. Now I'm going to South Korea to sell the idea that when you're thinking about increasing investment, a way to increase investment is not only about investment on infrastructure or investment on energy, on investment on agro-industry or tourism. Investment is also about private capitals, risk capitals, coming to Colombia to add to this idea of the fund of funds. And what we're doing is attracting those kind of strategic allies, SoftBank, Y Combinator, 500 startups, Station F, to work together in the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in Colombia.
So it's great. What would you like to tell us in this 1 minute 40 we have? Would you like to add anything?
No, maybe I can answer one question from the public audience.
Do you want just very quick question?
So clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you plan to retain talent in Colombia? Because in Spain, we need a lot of engineers. But I am from Colombia, and I
Engineers.
wouldn't like
He's talking about engineers.
to take the engineers from Colombia to take them here. Thank you.
I have to say something at the beginning. I mean, this is a globalized world. We understand that usually talent moves. What you have to do is to build ecosystems to be enoughly attractive for those human talents that we have. But of course, in addition to that, we can also build human talent for the world. That's a way in which you can build also positive externalities. Because when you have extraordinary human talent all around the world, they can work together with human talent from Colombia. What we have to do is to strongly develop our human talent. Not only those who are going abroad, but also the other part, the other human talent, which maybe you are not developing. So what I think that we have to do as a country is to develop the whole human talent. We were just discussing with funds at lunch that someone said, we have enough capital for any kind of entrepreneurship. And I said, that is true, but maybe it's not well allocated. It's not well distributed. So what we have to do is to develop the ecosystem internally, to take advantage of the whole human talent of our countries, to develop human talents to be able to be part of a globalized world, and to build these kind of links between that human talent, yourself here, for example, in Spain, with a human talent in Colombia, to promote the idea of entrepreneurship. We want to export human talent, we want to import your ideas, and we have to bring and to build this idea of links of our human talent all around the world.
Minister, thank you very, very much. It's been great talking to you. Many thanks.